Tonight, the Jays are on the verge of a World Series title, and Canada is more than ready.
I think the city will explode. I think we'll go crazy.
On the cusp of history, how Toronto and the team are preparing.
We can't wait. You kind of want the game to start right now.
And the record-setting rookie who got the Jays to Game 6. Andrew is stripped of his Prince title and evicted from his home.
I think it's a dangerous moment for the monarchy.
Why his brother King Charles is making this move now. And inside Gaza, CBC News captures the devastation in the north, the furthest our team has gone into the territory since the war began.
Senior Israeli military officials say they wanted to take us to this location.
What they observed under the escort of Israel's military.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. The Toronto Blue Jays are on the cusp of their first World Series title in 32 years, and tonight you can feel the anticipation and excitement reverberating through the city. Making this moment even sweeter, the Jays have the chance of being crowned champions at home at the Rogers Centre. So the Jays are coming off an incredible victory in LA, dominating the Dodgers and stunning the crowd with back-to-back home runs and 12 strikeouts from a rookie starter. The Jays are now just one win away from World Series glory. So the Jays haven't been this close since 1993, and understandably, fans across Canada cannot contain their emotions. And as Sheehan Desjardins shows us, the city and country are ready, and they want it all.
24 hours before they play what is likely the biggest game in their careers, the Jays look relaxed, happy, and ready to win the World Series at home.
I'm excited as hell to see what this place is like tomorrow. The guys are too.
This is the closest the Jays have been to becoming champions in more than 3 decades. Now for fans, the hunt is on, not just for a win, but for merch to remember it.
I think the city will explode. I think we'll go crazy.
Shockwaves felt nationwide, say these Edmontonians who flew in for this game.
This whole country is going to go crazy. They're our team too.
This is what it looked like when the Jays won in '92 and '93. Rob Butler was part of that team.
In '93, I couldn't believe the attention that the team got, how much the whole country loved this team. And this year, I think it's even more.
After a stunning Game 5 win on Wednesday night, the underdog Jays have to prove themselves once more, and it won't be easy. It's expected to be a repeat matchup of Game 2's starting pitchers, when the Jays took a loss. On the mound for the Dodgers, ace Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Does he have another one of those crazy performances in his hip pocket? Or is this going to be the game where you see Mr. Steady, that is Kevin Gossman, just finally win the battle of the splitter here? And I do think that there's a good chance of that.
With Game 6 falling on Halloween, bars are preparing for both.
They know that we're behind them, not just us, but the whole city, the whole country.
Jays fever reaching up to Nunavut.
We have baseball cups for our drinks. The servers are using baseball trays to serve the drinks on. We are all in for this series.
Like so many others hoping to experience a slice of history.
You kind of want the game to start right now, but it should be fun.
Game 6 happening at 8 o'clock Friday. Behind me here at the Rogers Centre, of course, expecting it'll be a lot busier then.
Yeah, so definitely going to be busy in Toronto's downtown core. Sheehan, what's the plan to deal with that?
So Toronto police say to expect a heavy police presence around the area here. Other police forces will also be helping out. Thousands of people are going to be pouring in and out of this area. And of course, when you mix that with a Halloween Friday night, you can imagine the chaos and the excitement if the Jays do in fact win the World Series.
All right, think good thoughts. That's Sheehan Desjardins reporting from outside the Rogers Centre. So naturally, we'll have special coverage of Game 6 of the World Series on Friday. I'll be outside the Rogers Centre with all the highlights and hopefully the celebrations. Turning to Ottawa now, the Liberals are about to table the federal budget. It's just days away, and it's not at all clear it's going to pass. The CBC's Kate McKenna has been speaking with sources about the discussions happening behind the scenes as the opposition parties grapple with what happens next. So, Kate, are they preparing to trigger another election?
Well, I can tell you that behind the scenes, these conversations are happening. The governing Liberals only need 3 more votes to pass the budget, which is set to be tabled next Tuesday. But right now, they say they don't have the votes. Conservatives and the Bloc Québécois have put conditions on their support that are unlikely to be met in this budget. And the NDP leader says his party won't support cuts, even though the Prime Minister has signaled that cuts are likely coming. So where does that leave things? Conservative and NDP sources say a possible scenario includes some of the NDP caucus abstaining or supporting the budget. The NDP, of course, are in a leadership race, and a winter election risks derailing their rebuild.
Absolutely. So, Kate, also, bringing down the government right now certainly isn't risk-free for the Conservatives either.
Conservative sources say they don't want an election, but they also don't want to be seen as propping up a government and an agenda that they don't support. They are already fundraising for a potential winter election, but it is worth noting Pierre Poilievre was asked this week whether all of his MPs must attend the budget vote, and he didn't answer, leaving space for some of them to be absent, which could help the budget pass. Meanwhile, the government met one of the Bloc Québécois' conditions today in announcing a crackdown on a tax evasion scheme affecting the trucking industry. And they still seem to be in active discussions with the government. So multiple scenarios could play out, but it is risky if there's a situation where the Liberals are relying on just a couple of opposition votes to pass the budget. If the plan hits a snag, the government could fall, pushing Canadians into an early election.
Okay. All right. That's Kate McKenna in Ottawa. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do Canadians really want an election? Rosie and our At Issue panel join us later to unpack that question, the political play and what could unfold on Budget Day. That's in about 20 minutes. Well, Canada is announcing $7 million in humanitarian aid for Caribbean countries hit hard by Hurricane Melissa to help get food, clean water, and health services to those in need. That includes in Jamaica, where a massive cleanup is now underway.
We're going to get to every community. It may take a little time, but we're going to do it as quickly as we can.
The storm is confirmed to have killed at least 4 people in Jamaica, but officials expect that number to rise. Much of the island is still without power. Melissa also did significant damage in Cuba and Haiti, sparking catastrophic flooding. Efforts are underway to reach communities and the people still cut off. Well, officials in Gaza have reported another wave of Israeli strikes injuring dozens, but the details are hard to independently verify. Gaza is sealed off to foreign journalists, except on rare trips supervised by the Israeli military. That's how this week CBC News made it deeper into the territory than any time since the war began 2 years ago. Crystal Gamansing takes us to the edge of Gaza City.
Squeezed into a tiny opening in the rubble, Bilal Rayhan is scavenging, searching for clothes, household items, and possibly bodies, he told a freelance video journalist in Gaza working for CBC. His 2 cousins, he says, are somewhere under the rubble. And because in Gaza, after 2 years of war, nearly everything lies in ruins. CBC accepted an invitation from the IDF to take a small group of journalists to the outskirts of Gaza City inside the Yellow Line under Israeli control. With independent access for media into Gaza banned by Israel since October 7th, this is the only way to see the destruction at a closer range for ourselves. The destination was an Israeli military position with a view of Sajaya, just hours before Israel launched strikes across Gaza in response to what Israel called violations of the truce by Hamas. As agreed, CBC shared images captured during the embed with the IDF. It did not request any edits. No editorial information was shared. Senior Israeli military officials say they wanted to take us to this location to show us what they said were, quote, the consequences of a terrorist organization setting up and waging a war from in, around, and below civilian areas. Hell on earth is how some UN officials have described Gaza. The International Court of Justice advisory ruling earlier this month stated Israel hasn't adequately provided the necessities of life as the occupying power. Israel continues to maintain that Hamas bears sole responsibility. In military zones like this one, the IDF says a few hundred Hamas warriors, to use their word, are still hiding in order to launch attacks, with 15,000 still operating across the Strip. CBC can't verify those numbers, but they're a possible rationale for future Israeli military operations. On the other side of the yellow line, where only CBC's Palestinian freelancer can go, families say the threats are all around. The planes above us and the people in the buildings and the people on the other side, says Abu Muhammad Halas. Fear and rubble, two things in abundance here. As for all of that rubble we saw from a distance, it appeared more ash-like, almost as if you took a hold of it, you could crumble it between your fingers.
This is all so hard to see. You were there just before those sweeping Israeli strikes across Gaza. The latest sign of how this truce could falter.
Absolutely, and we have heard from Israeli officials saying we could see more strikes like the ones from Tuesday if it determines Hamas is in violation of the agreement. Hamas tonight did return 2 more of the hostages' bodies, but 11 still remain in Gaza. And we have no more clarity on the makeup of the international peacekeeping force or its role in Gaza, Adrian.
All right, thank you. That's Krista Gumansing in Jerusalem tonight. Donald Trump has ordered the Pentagon to restart nuclear weapons testing for the first time in more than 30 years. As Paul Hunter shows us, the move has sparked warnings that it could jeopardize global security.
The images that jump to mind are those mushroom clouds from the archives of nuclear weapons testing a lifetime ago. That sobering specter now freshly raised by the U.S. president.
With others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
Donald Trump confirming for reporters what he'd earlier posted on social media. Because of other countries' testing programs, he wrote, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. The comments have effectively turned the world on its ear. Russia has recently tested nuclear-capable torpedoes and missiles, and China has expanded its nuclear stockpile, but no country has tested an actual nuclear weapon in decades. The U.S., Russia, and China long ago signed a treaty banning such tests, though it was never ratified into law. Russia professed dismay at Trump's comments, said Foreign Minister Dmitry Peskov, until now we didn't know that anyone was testing. We hope, said a spokesman for China's foreign ministry, the U.S. will abide by its test ban treaty obligations. A big concern, if the U.S. does begin testing, is that Russia and China will then follow suit.
We need to be really careful that that doesn't spiral, right?
If that happens, say experts, a potential winner is China, which historically, not least because of that treaty, hasn't tested its nukes nearly as much as the U.S. or Russia.
So if the U.S. or Russia would return to testing, that would kind of open the door for China, and China would be really the only one from a technical standpoint to gain something from the testing.
Trump said what he wants is de-escalation, denuclearization. That said, in his post, he emphasized the process toward U.S. testing should start immediately. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
On the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea, Donald Trump met with Chinese President Xi Jinping, portraying it as a resounding success.
I thought it was an amazing meeting. I think we agreed to almost everything at a very acceptable form. I thought it was a great meeting. I think it was a very friendly meeting. On the scale of from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, I would say the meeting was a 12.
Trump says China has agreed to buy more U.S. agricultural products, especially soybeans, to delay restrictions on rare earth exports and to take unspecified action against fentanyl. What Trump has offered in return includes paring back existing tariffs on China by 10%. Beijing was more muted on the meeting, urging both sides to keep talking until a deal is finalized. And during Mark Carney's time at the summit, he was invited on a tour of a South Korean submarine adorned with a Canadian flag, part of an aggressive campaign to land a contract to replace Canada's aging subfleet. Ottawa is considering up to 12 new submarines. A German-Norwegian consortium is the only other contender. Well, Prince Andrew is a prince no more. He is now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, according to Buckingham Palace, after being stripped of what was left of his royal trappings. As Chris Brown explains, it's the latest fallout over Andrew's ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
It had reached the point where nearly everything King Charles did was being overshadowed by his brother Andrew's ties to a convicted sex offender.
How do you ask the police to cover up?
Thursday night, Charles finally stripped Andrew of his titles and banished him from his 30-room mansion near Windsor called Royal Lodge. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation, said a statement from the palace. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact he continues to deny the allegations against him. No more Prince Andrew. Instead, he'll be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an unprecedented reversal of fortune for a royal who has badly damaged the whole institution, says this historian.
I think it's a dangerous moment for the monarchy.
While Andrew's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein was known for years, it was only after the publication of Virginia Giuffre's memoir that the king moved to abandon Andrew. Giuffre alleged she was 17 when she met Andrew and had sex with him 3 times, including once on Epstein's Island. Giuffre died by suicide in April. And while the palace will hope its latest moves take the pressure off the royal family, Andrew Loney doubts it.
There are going to be continuing revelations from the release of the Epstein material. I'm sure that more victims will come forward.
Giuffre's brother spoke to the BBC right after the announcement.
This normal girl from a normal family has taken down a prince. We are so proud of her.
Andrew will now reportedly be moving to Sandringham, a royal estate in eastern England, but his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, who had been living with him, will have to start fending for herself. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
In Alberta, thousands of students across the province walked out of their classrooms in support of their teachers who were ordered back to work this week. Premier Danielle Smith invoked the notwithstanding clause to end the 3-week strike, sending 51,000 teachers back to class. Many students say they share their teachers' concerns about growing class sizes and insufficient support for students with complex needs. Well, the countdown is on for Game 6 of the World Series, but many Jays fans are still basking in the glow of last night's huge win.
The 0-2. He got him.
Starting pitcher Trey Yesavage stole the show. His Cinderella story leading to the big leagues coming up. And it's the hottest new bit of Jay's swag inspired by a baseball legacy.
For Vladdy, it's in his DNA. Born ready for the city.
How his Vladdy design ended up on Vladdy himself. We're back in 2 minutes. A powerful and personal apology from the Chief of the Defence Staff today to all members of the Canadian Armed Forces who've experienced racial discrimination and harassment. Ashley Burke with reaction tonight from those it was meant for.
The military's top soldier delivering an emotional message.
Speaking personally, what I have learned has broken my heart.
On behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces, General Jenny Carignan issuing a formal apology.
I apologize to every CAF member, veteran who experienced racism, discrimination, and harassment. And I acknowledge we failed you.
A move to confront decades of harm she says was allowed to fester in the ranks.
I felt a sense of relief, especially, those that were crying in the room. And you really could feel that this was a history in the making.
See, miigwech.
But after watching the apology, retired Corporal Melvin Swan isn't sure yet.
What's important is, where do we go from here?
More than 30 years ago, he won his human rights case against the military and has been pushing ever since for it to be a more inclusive place.
The military was my saving grace. That's where I went to deal with, get away from sexual abuse and residential school, boarding school, and it was my way out. But at the same time, I realized that that system was not perfect.
Racism destroyed us for several years.
For Reuben Coward, this apology comes after a class action lawsuit he helped launch, claiming years of racism that he calls horrific.
I'm not going to be comfortable until I see real change. And so whatever that looks like, what it's going to look like to me, is when nobody continues to call me and say, Reuben, can you help me? I'm dealing with racism. I've been diagnosed with PTSD. I want to commit suicide. When that stops, I'll smile again.
He's not sure if that will happen during his lifetime, but after today, wants to believe it could happen during his granddaughter's. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Police in France have arrested 5 more suspects in connection with the brazen daylight heist from the Louvre. 2 other men arrested last weekend have partially admitted their involvement, but the $143 million worth of jewels remains missing. The dramatic heist has sparked a social media trend, with visitors posting pics and memes reenacting the theft. Well, he is the Toronto Blue Jays rookie having an incredible World Series run.
I'm just ready for whatever's next, if there is a next.
We chart the remarkable rise of Trey Yesavage. After the break, Rosie's here with that issue. Hey, Rosie.
Hey, Adrian. Tonight, those ongoing Canada-U.S. trade tensions after President Trump abruptly ended talks.
We stand ready to pick up on those discussions when the United States wishes to pick up on those discussions.
So what will it take to get those negotiations going again? Chantal, Althea, and Jason Markusoff join me to talk about that and more.
There is new interest at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia over a carving of the Toronto Blue Jays logo that first appeared on the building 10 years ago. Until this week, how it got there was a bit of a mystery, but now the artist has come forward.
I think this is an unfound gem for a lot of people that live here, and a lot of tourists as well.
So that's Craig Potter. He carved the logo in 2015 during a restoration at his supervisor's request to counter a similar Boston Red Sox carving on the other side of the building. The gallery director says he hopes it will bring the Jays good luck. It cannot hurt. Well, this World Series has been filled with record-breaking moments. Game 5 was the most watched Blue Jays game ever, and the star of the show was rookie Trey Yesavage. Cameron McIntosh has more on the 22-year-old's historic performance on baseball's biggest stage.
The 0-2. He got him.
Record-setting rookie. 6 weeks ago, most Jays fans didn't know his name. They do now.
Let's go, Yesavage!
22-year-old Trey Yesavage burning up the mound. In just his 8th Major League start, setting 3 World Series records.
I'm just ready for whatever's next, if there is a next.
The Toronto Blue Jays select Trey Yesavage.
Drafted last year 20th overall, there was a feeling the Jays got a steal. No one predicted this rise. Moving through the entire Jays farm system, including the Vancouver Canadians, in just 1 season. And now the World Series after his majors debut last month.
We were willing to throw him right into the fire because we felt confident in the work he had done.
Tyler Zickel does play-by-play for the Vancouver Canadians.
I don't think that any player is going to be able to make such an impact in such a short amount of time in such an important era of a team's history.
Propelling it all, his release of the ball, about a foot higher than average. His pitches cross the plate at odd angles.
His release point is over 7 feet, and then he throws this devastating splitter. And it's unusual. It's not something people are used to.
He gets him. And in the process, he sets a major league record. A guy this young and this inexperienced doing this on this stage. This doesn't happen.
But it is happening, and right when it really matters. Hot-handed, maybe too young to be intimidated by the game's best.
I'd treat every hitter the same. All at this level, every hitter can do damage. So, I mean, it was just another strikeout.
You got to tip your cap to him. Game 1, Game 5 on the road, and the way he performed, pretty impressive.
Striking out batters making tens of millions, Yesavage is making just thousands. As a rookie, carries beer to the bus.
That's a true legend right there, still carrying the beer.
Yeah, it's a crazy world. Crazy world. Hollywood couldn't have made it this good.
All that's missing is a championship ending. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Time now to break down the news shaping our world. And tonight, Rosie's here with At Issue.
At issue tonight, Canada-U.S. trade. Tensions are high after Donald Trump paused negotiations, angry over an Ontario ad.
We stand ready to pick up on those discussions when the United States wishes to pick up on those discussions.
Trump doesn't seem interested in talking, but the U.S. ambassador to Canada had choice words towards Ontario's Washington representative at a public event.
It's unbecoming of an ambassador. Never heard of this in my entire life.
So what's to be made of the tensions in those trade negotiations? What will a meeting, for instance, between Canada and China's leader mean for Canada's trade prospects? I'm Rosemary Barton, here to break it all down tonight. Chantal Hébert, Althea Raj, and in for Andrew Coyne tonight, Jason Markusoff. Thank you all for being here. Nice to see you. Let's start maybe just with a state of play, where we're at, Chantal. The fact that things are off. There was a little bit of an interaction between the president and the prime minister in South Korea, but it is very unclear where things go from here.
Yeah, well, if I raise my glass at you at the dinner table, I hope not too many people read many things into it. Okay, seriously, backroom talks are still happening. Both sides keep talking about this deal that didn't happen because of the ad. I frankly don't buy that, because the subtext, what you also hear, is how Canada wasn't flexible enough, and what you hear from the Canadian side, not from the official lines, because we are all protected from finding out exactly what is going on, but from backroom talks again, that whatever was on offer involved a list of concessions that at least one person I spoke to who is close to that said that that person had warned the prime minister that the second you sign off on this is the day we become totally unpopular in Canada. So the notion that there was a great deal in the offing that got killed by this, maybe it's lucky. And why do I say that? Because clearly public opinion in the U.S. is turning against tariff, as are politicians. And that is interesting. It will take a while. It's not an instant solution, but it doesn't go the way of tariffs are great, as the president likes to say, and Americans like them.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that too, Althea. I do think the prime minister has said this before, that time is on our quote-unquote side, Canada's side. And I did wonder whether there was some slow walking happening here on purpose. Again, I have no idea what the prime minister's strategy is, but I think that that's also plausible.
Well, that was our strategy last time, but I think the Americans are onto us. I think what's telling is that, I agree with Chantal, I don't believe this had anything to do with the ad. And in fact, the president suggested that the Canadians were being unreasonable, and that he likes the current status quo, which is CUSMA and additional tariffs, and he is in no hurry to change things. And frankly, I don't know why we would be in such a hurry to change things either, because without auto on the table, without softwood on the table, I think there is already a narrative that is starting to be crafted, which is Mark Carney's government is willing to concede on things, whether that's the continuation of the border, defense spending, the digital service tax, the reciprocity tariffs from August, and nothing seems to emerge from it. So why would the government continue along those lines? So I think in a way it was a mixed blessing for them. So I agree with Chantal.
Jason, what do you think?
A lot of Canadians were, some people may see it as a mixed blessing, but a lot of Canadians are waiting for something. Canadians in the auto sector, that's clear that we're not getting anything from this, and they seem like there's an existential crisis there for Canadians in the in the steel sector and aluminum sector, the idea of concessions and some kind of improvement was great. And if the idea was that the concession could be, more oil being sold through a Keystone pipeline or some kind of agreement there, that would have been a major boon for the province. I mean, I think that the challenge, and this is what Trump benefits from, is that people don't know what's real. 10%, this threat, is that real? Is what's to come on this? The idea of a perpetual state of uncertainty is what he thrives on. And yes, there is opportunity for Canadians to be patient, but they know that there's a long time since there's been any kind of win. They can point to it all on that, and that's going to lay in their minds as well.
I mean, I do think, maybe it was many things, but I do think it was also the ad, and I think some evidence of that is the way Ambassador Hoekstra approached the Ontario representative at that event the other night and used the F word and laid into him about it, because I guess it embarrassed the president. It at least upset him. But I don't know what you do
Seriously, it didn't at first, and then it did. And what that tells me is the ad was effective. And in the end, you're not going to win. I mean, in what universe does the U.S. ambassador give orders to Canadian lawmakers? And in what universe does that work for Canada? Yeah. The ad was obviously effective. Public opinion in the U.S., what was it, that CNN poll? 49%, 49 plus 49, Canada is a friend, minus 10, Donald Trump is doing well. At some point, you've got to decide whether you're going to spend your time kissing rings for no purpose, or whether you're going to stand up. But the notion that we should say the U.S. ambassador is now using F words, which I can use because I'm French, but I'm not going to. And that's a sign that we should just get on our knees. That sounds really demeaning. Plus, there was a poll this week that basically showed that the majority of Canadians actually think, and more than almost half of Liberals, that we're being too timid in our handling of the U.S.-Canada file. So at some point, you've got to decide who you are the Prime Minister to.
But does that mean we don't have to seek a resolution then, Althea? Like we just, as you said, just live with what we have for now?
I think we just need to be smart and not keep conceding on things without, our eye should be on the big prize, which is CUSMA, and making sure that renegotiated deal gives us certainty, because the thing that is killing us at the moment is uncertainty. And whether it's the U.S. ambassador trying to make himself relevant with his F-bombs, I wasn't at the dinner, so I don't really know what happened. But to me, that's a sideshow. The president actually hurt himself by raising the ad, because then it got everybody talking about the ad on Fox News, on MSNBC, on CNN, and it made the ad much more of a target. It got lawmakers talking about the ad, and frankly, it hurt his case at the Supreme Court, because it's supposed to be about reasons and not emotions. So that makes little sense. In terms of our strategy, I'm not actually sure what our strategy is, but it seems like it would be much better to keep our eye on the big prize. And these side deals that we don't even know if Donald Trump's going to honor them, why would we concede big things on to get temporary reprieve?
Yeah, and maybe that is the strategy, because it is the Prime Minister who continues to say we have the best deal with the United States because of CUSMA and the other things. It's just the sectoral tariffs that continue to be painful. Jason?
Yeah, and he's been patient. He's not struck the deals like Korea just signed, where there remains a 15% tariff, or France or England. And what a time for for Trump to have this fit of pique. And of course, one of the pieces we know about Mark Carney is his strategy is not going to fight peak with peak. But for Mark Carney to be wading into, on Friday, this meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, at a time which is, of course, very controversial with a lot of Canadians, both in academia and in public, who are worried about the security and various other consequences of that. But when Donald Trump is showing just how irrational he is, that he will threaten to raise tariffs by 10% because he didn't like something he's heard about on TV, that many Canadians may be much more welcoming of an embrace of once seen as a pariah state.
Okay, We're going to leave this part of the conversation there. When we come back, we'll look at the political battle shaping up over the budget and concerns about the vote.
Canadians cannot afford a 10th costly budget that drives up the price of groceries and housing.
So, can the Liberals get the support they need to pass the budget? Is there a threat of another election? That's next. At issue, budget politics. The Liberals will release their budget next Tuesday and are preparing Canadians for cuts.
I'm not sugarcoating it to people. Yes, we had to make tough choices.
Parties are accusing each other of trying to force an election.
We certainly hope the opposition leader will order his troops to vote for it instead of ordering the very nervous ones to vote against it and cause a very expensive Christmas election.
That member and the Prime Minister are trying to provoke a costly election on their costly budget.
So what's to be made of the politics behind the budget? Does any party really want an election? Let's bring everyone back. Chantal, Althea, and Jason Markusoff in for Andrew. Althea, I'm going to start with you. What are you hearing? Where do you think things stand?
Well, to answer your question, does anybody want an election? Generally speaking, no. Is there the threat of an election? Yes. Are the numbers there for the Liberals? Yes, if they want it. The Conservatives don't actually want an election, but they believe that their membership do, and so they will vote against it, though Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, was pretty clear, interestingly, that he didn't give, a clear answer when he was asked if all of his members were going to be at the vote and be voting against it. So that's worth noting. The NDP caucus is really split, but they don't have that much to lose. They could abstain, but if there are lots of cuts, as we keep hearing that there are, if there's a lot of job losses, I can't see how the NDP votes for this budget. The best likely scenario is that the Bloc supports the budget, which frankly was always the best likely scenario. No, but it was. If they had started talking to the Bloc in the summer, because Yves-François Blanchet told them after the election, you know, this is a moment that calls for us to collaborate and work together. And if we all put our partisanship aside, you know, I'm willing to work cooperatively. Let's talk. And the Liberals did not talk to him. And then, I'm sorry to say, but the House leader, the Liberal House leader, Steve McKinnon, basically used his pulpit to insult the Bloc repeatedly. So why would they want to support him? And so they poisoned the relationships. But that was still the best case scenario for them, the easy for the picking votes, if you wish. So they're in a bit of a pickle, but I do think that they are individual members that they could go and get those 3 missing votes. Starting with, of course, Elizabeth May, who has said very clearly that if there's no fossil fuel subsidies, she's willing to vote for the budget, assuming there's no poison pill for her. So, yeah, the other problem, though, is that a lot of Liberals actually think that there is a strategic advantage of going now, because it will never look rosier than it is now. And if Mark Carney wants his majority, and he seems to be governing as if he has one, maybe they should start planning for one. And frankly, they have started planning for one.
Okay, I'm going to get Chantal, and then Jason, I'll get your take from a little further away. Chantal.
The Bloc will not support the budget, and even by late summer, they did warn the government that it wasn't on. And those 18 conditions, 6 of which are non-negotiable, are basically meant to say we are not going to support the budget. François Blanchet wants to go to the polls before a possible PQ win in Quebec City, which would complicate his own life and leave him vulnerable if we end up in a referendum, yes, no kind of environment. The problem the opposition has, the NDP and the Conservatives, there's a Petula Clark French song that says everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die. And that's basically where they are. They would all want to oppose the budget, but neither of them really want an election. And I think of the 2 parties, the NDP probably is less adverse to an election because they figure they can hang on to their 7 seats. If they did last time, they can do it again and maybe add a few more. The Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre have to be worried, looking at the numbers, that this would terminate Pierre Poilievre's career. Forget that leadership review. But at some point, something is going to have to give, and there is an extra danger here. What if they all decide to go to heaven on budget day by saying we oppose this budget, thinking that they're not going to have to die because they will keep people away on the vote? If you were the Prime Minister, you could, on the basis of those statements on budget day, go to the Governor General and say the main opposition parties do not want to support the budget, and so I'm asking you to dissolve this Parliament because I don't have the support of the opposition for my budget, without going to the vote. And that is a risk, because I do believe that the notion that it would be that the Liberals actually should want a majority and are increasingly thinking that they can get one is a dangerous one for the opposition parties as they try to call everybody else's bluff.
Okay, Jason, so like if I was a Canadian listening to this, I would not be thrilled. I don't know that Canadians have the appetite for another election or even want to contemplate that this is happening. What do you think?
And the parties all know that. They know that one of the, if we wound up an election, they'd have to make sure they can properly blame the other guys. Nobody is going to want to be blamed for the election. It's not that you necessarily, lose the election because they blame you, but it certainly hurts you at the start of an election that happens. But right now, these parties, there's no real downside at this point to bluffing, to revealing their hand. Everybody wants to strengthen their hand, have the highest negotiating hand, certainly until the Liberals play their cards, which is the budget, which will test, which could test what the country's pain threshold is for size of deficit. We're at an interesting point now where Pierre Poilievre seems to be okay if the deficit is a mere $42 billion, which is an interesting political place to be, and what the country's pain tolerance is for spending cuts, with all these warnings bringing down the boom that there's going to be some kind of sacrifices, some kind of hardships for Canadians of various colors. But until they see that, there's no real point in saying where you're going to go or what you're going to do for the opposition parties.
Last 30 seconds or so to you there, Althea.
I think the fact that you're both suggesting that the Canadians don't want to have an election should give the Liberals pause, frankly, because they win when voter turnout is high. And in the spring, you had people very worried about Donald Trump and his threats about the 51st state, and you don't have that anymore. And so if you get into this feeling of complacency, the Liberals might think, oh, the polling numbers are great in Quebec, and Ontario, and Atlantic Canada. But if there's nothing mobilizing people to the polls, they should be far less comfortable than the polls suggest they are.
Okay, that is it for At Issue on The National. We're going to keep talking. We're going to talk about Alberta's use of the notwithstanding clause to get teachers back to work. You can catch that on YouTube and, of course, the At Issue podcast. Now back to Adrian in Toronto.
Thanks, Rosie. Coming up, Vladdy Jr. tips a cap to his own roots.
I get a text from Matt, and it's the 2 shirts and the cards laid out ready for Johnny and Vladdy.
How a chance encounter connected the designer with the superstar slugger in our moment. Pretty sure you know by now that this is Blue Jays first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He is wearing a shirt that has a picture of him as a little kid at his father's Montreal Expos game. So the shirt was designed by a local Toronto artist who missed a flight to watch Game 1 of the World Series. That turned into something special. How he got his shirt to Vladdy is our moment.
I born ready, and I want it all for this city.
I was watching Game 6 of the ALCS. When Vladdy said born ready, beside that is this incredible moment where you see him beside his dad back at the Expos Stadium. We came up with this idea. My cousin calls me and tells me we have 4 tickets to the World Series. I got to the airport, I had a missed flight. I am stuck in New York, having to buy a new ticket. As I'm leaving, the lady at the front desk, she looks at me and she goes, this happened for a reason. I land in Toronto. I'm standing in the passport line to leave. I'm talking to everyone with the Blue Jay hat on. This guy I haven't seen before, he's like, I'm John Schneider's brother. So I give Matt Schneider some shirts. I meet their family, they all get shirts. I brought them a note for Vladdy, a note for John. During the game, I get a text from Matt, and it's the 2 shirts and the cards laid out ready for Johnny and Vladdy. I get emotional even thinking about it. This project is for the inner child of our generation. For Vladdy, it's in his DNA. Born ready for the city. I was just so grateful to the Schneider family, to Bo, to Vladdy. It's been a wave of October magic. Deep gratitude is how I felt.
Okay, what are the chances that he would run into Matt Schneider, the brother of John Schneider, who is the manager of the Blue Jays? Apparently, they're good friends now. They text throughout the games, and he will be there for Game 6. We will all be watching. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.